This is the 2023 Teachers Who's Who's. Most likely to be remembered, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Cox, Ms. Birchfield, and Coach Quinn Tucker. Most likely to make you laugh, Mr. Cox, Mr. Jimenez, Coach Smith, and Miss Sesser. Class Mom, Ms. Birchfield. Class Dad, Mr. Hawkins. Best Storyteller, Miss LaPointe. Best Classroom, Miss Flemister, Miss Adair. Best Dressed, Most Stylish, Miss Adair, Mr. Cox. Best Taste in Music, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Jimenez, and Coach Quinn Tucker. Most intimidating vocabulary, Miss Riley, Miss Birchfield, Miss Coates. Most likely at a meeting, Miss Birchfield, Miss Coates, Miss Wisner, Miss Sesser. Gift and best advice, Miss Sesser, Miss Birchfield, and Miss Wisner. Most easygoing, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Cox, and Coach Q Tucker. Go-to guru, Miss Birchfield, Mr. Cox, Miss Wisner, and Miss Sesser. Best all-around teachers, Mr. Hawkins and Miss Birchfield. Most school spirit, Miss Lawfont and Miss Garner. Most encouraging, Miss Birchfield, Mr. Cox, and Miss Adair. Most inspiring, Miss Birchfield, Miss LaPointe, Coach Q Tucker, and Mr. Hawkins. Most intellectual, Miss Coates, Miss Garraway, Miss Birchfield, and Miss Frost. Most likely to give homework, Miss Riley, Miss Pearson, and Miss Sesser. Most likely to kick you out of class, Miss Riley, Mr. Cox, Miss Coates, and Mr. McDaniel. Most likely to put you on blast, Miss Riley, Miss Sesser, Mr. Cox. Most likely to take your phone, Miss Coates, Mr. Cox, Miss Penny Martin. Most likely to be mistaken for a student, Miss Adair, Mr. Hernandez, and Miss Johnson. Most likely to fail you with a smile, Miss Coates, Miss Riley, Miss Birchfield, and Miss Young. Most forgetful, Mr. McDaniel, Miss Riley, and Miss Wiseman.
Hey, what not doing? I'm sorry. Freshman Who's Who. Biggest procrastinator, Natalie Breedlove, Justice Brewer, and Kyle Carpenter. Most school spirit, Evan Irwin, Aaron Brown. Most athletic, Nikel Lewis, Carson Thomas. Most likely to be on Broadway, Ava Weisner, Freda Kelly. Best gamer, Josh Burrell and Nyla Black. Most creative, Nyla Black and Kyle Carpenter. Most beautiful / handsome, Trombley Wynn and Brayley Love. Most likely to Snapchat it, Madeline Carpenter and Aaron Brown. Most studious, Mabry Davis and Jackson Harrington. Best personality, Brayley Logue and Chance Hollis. Class clown, Justin Brewer and Jalen Moore. Best dress / most stylist, Kevion Duckery, Jaden Tullis, and Natalie Breedlove. Sophomores Who's Who. Best personality, Grace Poole and Matt Morans. Biggest procrastinator, J.C. Clavette and Christopher Acock. Most handsome / beautiful, Abby Elizondo, Grace Poole and Saxon Brooks. Most likely to end up on Broadway, Maddie Gillen, Tishopsy Jenkins, Saxon Brooks, and Ray Carpenter. Most likely to Snapchat it, J.C. Clavette and Anthony Smith. The loudest, Micaiah Terry and Anthony Smith. Most studious, Grace Poole and Connor Maxwell. Most school spirit, Grace Poole, Logan McKelvey, and Saxon Brooks. Best athletic, Tyson Brooks and Logan McKelvey. Best dress / most stylish, Tishopsy Jenkins and Vaughn Stewart. Class clown, Micaiah Terry and Anthony Smith. Most creative, Grace Alvarado and Sylvester Clemens. Best gamer, Jalen Holmes and Tia Aiken.
Juniors Who Who. Best personality, Morgan Fulgham and Jose Barron. Biggest procrastinator, Amelia Bennett, Braden Ballard. Brandon Ballard, Jose Barron. Most handsome, beautiful, Peyton Pennington, Brett Holland. Most likely to end up on Broadway, Harley Lawrence and Chris Harmony. Most likely to Snapchat it, Cameron Jones and Jackson Grove. The loudest, Skylar Watkins and Camarion Cooper. Most school spirit, Macy Hickman, Jackson Grubb. Best athletic, Laney Tippin and Brent Holland. Best dressed, most stylish, Bryn Davis, Ethan Burnell, and Chris Harmony. Class clown, Xander Cameron and Skylar Watkins. Most creative, Addie Nelms and Nathan Crow. Worst driver, Macy Hickman and Larry Page. Teacher's pet, Sloan Tucker, Jace Hale. Best all-around, Peyton Pennington and Gabriel Summer.
Seniors Who Who.
Yeah, like it hurts really bad.
Best personality, Julia Osment, Tracker Wyden. Most likely to be remembered, Leslie Shigoya and Tracker Wyden. Biggest procrastinator, Lorena Hernandez and Edwin Hernandez. Most handsome, most beautiful, Julia Osment, Tracker Wyden. Most likely to end up on Broadway, Mary Emily Rosinski and Andrew Huffman. Most likely to succeed, Mary Emily Rosinski and Tracker Wyden. Most likely to trip at graduation, Ashanti Kitchens. Most likely to Snapchat it, Bailey Clavette, Reagan Martin, Amari Forrest, and Mason Savage. Most likely to marry for money, Lorena Hernandez and Mason Savage. The loudest, Chloe Pruitt and Mason Savage. Most school spirit, Emma Foster and Mason Savage. Most athletic, Leslie Shigoya, Tracker Wyden. Best dancer, Mary Emily Rosinski, Patrick Carpenter, Zane Johnson, Jazarius Orange, and Andrew Huffman. Best dressed and most stylish, Leslie Shigoya, Thomas Franco, Edwin Hernandez, Zane Johnson, and Jazarius Orange. Worst case of senioritis, Jordan Hawkins and Chloe Pruitt. Class clown, Amari Forrest, Mason Savage, and Dylan Wilson. Most creative, Katie Greenwood and Patrick Carpenter. Worst driver, Mary Emily Rosinski and Mason Savage. Teacher's pet, Casey Jones and Connor Foote. And congratulations to our 2022-2023 Mr. and Mrs. HHS, Tracker Whited and Julia Osment.